Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Alpine Odyssey here in Planet Coaster, where we get to try and work on the station here on the wooden coaster that we constructed during a live stream a few weeks ago. So the biggest trouble with this thing was simply trying to get the path to make any semblance of a logic and reason. It really wasn't a station, a location that was probably for the best. And I really wanted to incorporate this bridge going across and then having a lower section go across the water even more. In hindsight, this is a major headache, you could say, having the entry point in such a one-way kind of direction as this. So, we had to change a lot of things. I.e. being that I originally wanted the queue to go across the bridge and start before the bridge. And that has been changed to just be more of a concrete path to get back into this other section that we're going to try and actually snake the queue through and around. I think that is a fair enough compromise due to space limitations and for me to actually get a queue through here without digging a tunnel all the way through like the mountainside. I think this is really the best way to go. Other than that, we sunk the rail near the station down into the ground a little bit so that we can simply come straight out and create some sort of bridge, tunnel like structure eventually. The coaster will actually go under right before heading back to the station itself. And the queue is just going to snake up along the backside there, and I'm perfectly fine with that. The queue is going to be reworked a little bit. I keep trying to find different ways to snake it around, and then I finally kind of settle on this kind of two-pronged, kind of almost like a Y shape there at the end, just to cap it off. I think it's an interesting enough shape. I didn't want to just do a classic kind of, it's constant zigzagging queue. I wanted something, I think, a little bit more interesting and something that could probably hold its own in the future. So at this point, backup saves, always important to do, and we will be putting down the base shape of the building. The building is based off I believe it is a Polish granary somewhere. And I wanted a granary just because of the windmill and the kind of planned farmland that's going to be going around here. We do have to, by the way, downgrade the grid system to a 1 meter grid just to get this roof on there. I feel like I've been building structures and items not on a 4 meter grid for quite a while now. So it really slows down progress because you have this little extra layer of detail to try and contend with. But overall, the building shape, I hope you guys enjoy it. It's a simple barn-like structure. At least it's a barn-style roof going over the backside there. And here are, some of the stonework going in over the tracks, just to make sure those are at least roughed in and I know where that's going to be. We even added a little bit of a priority queue into the coaster station itself. I haven't actually seen anyone use it. I don't know if priority queues are broken. Because it's been so long since I've used one. Like, out of all the times playing Planet Coaster, you'd be surprised on how little rides that I've actually made in the game. Even in this park itself, we only have 3 rides right now, and hopefully, of course, that's going to grow as the park grows. But other than that, my one-off builds, I didn't really have to worry about the priority queue line being a specific length or area, and I haven't just seen anyone use it on this ride itself, but it also could be due to the queue being relatively short. I think it's only about 10-11 minutes in the game, so they might not actually think it's warranted to buy such an item to skip some of that line. But hey, when the park grows and the queue line becomes 100% full 100% of the time, I have a feeling people will start kind of dipping into that priority pass. The train stations will also have a little bit of a priority pass as well, just to make sure people, at least use them. They do make us some money, and I think that would be good to be at least a solvent theme park near the end. Here is our custom little tiling for the roof going across there. We're just using a nice red roof, nothing overly different than before, though the main difference is the wooden block that we're using for this roof is different from everything else in the previous tile set. I was using, I think, one of the brackets, and I didn't know this when I was building the roof or doing any tests, but this is a pretty large piece, as you can see. However, the LOD on this piece is actually shorter than the smaller wooden brackets, which is an interesting thing if you think about it. I feel like the wooden brackets are a smaller detail than this thing, but for some reason when I zoom out, this roof fades away so quickly compared to everything else that it's a little jarring to look at, but it's okay. I'm fine with things having an LOD just because it's gonna improve performance, and with our park, performance is kind of a major long-term concern for us. We are doing a lot of timber framing. I'm actually having proper open windows on the first floor, also a little bit on the side there you saw a second ago, and I want this to at least feel very open on the interior, right? Because coaster stations, usually they're on a platform of some kind. You usually can see a lot around you when you're there. But however, I wanted this building to fit the theme a lot more than just having a covered section. So, doing custom doors, doing these windows in areas where we as the third person spectator can see into the building and see some movement. It's always a good thing to do. It's something that I stress a lot for Planet Coaster or any real theme park rating building game. I want to see people going in and out of the building, and then I also wouldn't mind seeing people moving inside the building while I'm outside the building. It just adds a little bit of a dynamic kind of fluidity that you might not get otherwise. We're going to get some wooden trim around the somewhat wider stone base. You can see we extend the base out a little bit on this structure just so it's not so plain looking. Having this little step there is kind of interesting. I did ponder about doing this using the backside of a window to potentially make a gradient, almost like a partial roof covering. And that might actually protect it from the elements, might help with water management, but I decided, nah, we'll just leave it open for now and think about a solution later, because I just didn't like the texture that thing turned out, and I just didn't like the shape it overall made either. Here we are. We're adding some upper kind of dormer windows, and these things are pretty cool to do. And in my reference image, this structure actually there was actually quite a lot of these windows, so we're only going to do 4, and then we're actually going to walk it up the side of the roof, adjusting the roof a little bit as we go. The angle is going to get a little bit more shallow, and we're going to have a 3 high kind of window stepping tiers going up here, and it looks pretty cool. This is why I really want to kind of recreate this building. It was one of the more instantaneous results on Google, and I don't really ever shy away from using Google for inspiration. Of course, there's things different in this building, but I can't, ever really claim that, oh yes, Uthris, you're being 100% original 100% of the time. No, that's sometimes too stressful, and so you might as well try your best to learn by making a building that pretty much already exists in real life with just some leniencies on some of the minor detail. The building shape and silhouette is kind of the most important thing. Anyways, everything else is kind of secondary if you think about it. Here is the top of the roof going in, a little bit of that peak, and we will probably split the building in half. This is going to be the quickest way to get the backside to match, is split it in half. We're going to then copy this structure to the side, clean it up a little bit more just to make sure we're not overly copying too many of the same pieces. adjust some things, adjust the seams a little bit, make sure, you know, things are lining up correctly, repatch some of the walls and ceilings along the side, and, you know, things will progress quite nicely. We'll get a closed door on this side, and I wanted this barn close to the train tracks as well, because eventually I'm kind of thinking about adding some small little hooks and cranes, just to make it look a little bit more like a loading zone or unloading zone, depending on, you know, what might be happening at the time. The upper windows, simple wooden frames. The ends of the building, we're not going to fully timber frame these. These are going to be more just a whitewash section. There's going to be some timber frames around, like, you know, the windows, the openings, things where you might get more exposed wood. I think that would be a cool thing to do. And you can kind of just bring in a little bit of that two-tone that you're kind of expecting to see in a lot of these structures over here in old Europe. We got some more copy and paste, you know, into the interior so that we can see these wood structural elements going all the way through the wall, and it looks like it's supporting it from the inside. The interior view is, of course, super important, just like our restaurant or anything else that we've really built over the past little while. I wanted to get a deck out this side a little bit as well. The lift hill is modeled a little bit after a grain chute, so I wanted a deck out here to at least meet the bottom of it and look pretty cool. So, you know, that balcony type piece is really good for that. I really like the wood texture there. It just is a nice good clean wood planking look. We could have used the rooftop there, but you can't get quite as accurate with a 4x4 piece. The 4x2 meter piece is probably better for cases like these. We'll give it some thicker and darker wood, kind of wooden supports. You can see we're really overtaking this waterway with a lot of supports and structures, which looks pretty cool. It's not overly crowded in my opinion. Overly crowded would be basically like hardcore blocking off a lot of the area. But what we're doing now is pretty mild, I would say. You know, a lot of the wooden structures and beams going through the water, I think, keep it open enough to where at least still maintains that good look. We are now working on some more custom supports for the lift hill, and we get to spend a lot of time working on this thatch. If you guys ever use this thatch, if I can speak, thatch piece, it's really annoying to work with, to be honest. The way the gizmo is centered on it, you know, it's not really like a plank or anything else. I mean, it's basically a straight edge object. However, it has a base use of being used on like a 45-degree roof. And so the base object itself is tilted from the base gyro. And so you can't really use a lot of quick copy and paste methods that you might be able to otherwise if you were just using wooden planks or any other kind of free-forming item that we have in the game. But, you know, eyeballing it sometimes is about the best we can do, and that's kind of to be expected. So this whole thatch run going up the hill looks really cool. There's plenty of openings on the side of the structure so people can still see out over the park. I just wanted to have this covered lift hill because, one, it looks cool. Two, it seems to be kind of a common-esque theme. Don't quite quote me on that. I don't, again, know a crazy amount about coasters or really their elements and things, but I see a lot of people in the community go ahead and make covered lift hill sections, and I wanted to at least do that a little bit here because I don't think I have done that before. Not even the Nordic coaster that we made has a covered lift hill section, so this is, I believe, the first one. Trying to get the thatch to line up as best as possible. Sadly, some of the shadow it casts on itself is a little distracting, but we'll be adding some wooden details on top and over it, which will help at least blend and mask some of this effect. It won't hide it completely, but you know, when you're getting the Z fighting shadow-esque trouble that some items have, you know, like either this thatch or some of the art pieces and things, you know, it's good to add some other exterior detail element, I think, to help distract the viewer from being all caught up in the other shadows that the thatch is creating. And here we are, opening up the other side a little bit more. I didn't like the default windows there for the same reason that we didn't use the default windows on the sides. I couldn't see into the structure, and I felt like the windows just felt out of place compared to the rest of the building that we've done so far. So, you know, you go back in, you change that, add things to it, and rework things at your leisure. We're going to then go ahead on the interior a little bit. We're not going to finish the interior, I don't think, this episode. We're just going to get it to at least a presentable pace. We might finish it on this week's live stream, but who knows how well that'll happen. We might even build an ice cream truck. Who knows? We get to try and find ways to support this really high-peaked structure, and I also want to try and leave 2 of those middle squares open because, in theory, you know, this would be a working structure. So you want to have as much open kind of pathways as possible, and so that's why we kind of did that. I thought about using some logs to potentially get some frames in there, you know, some bulkier, heavier things, but I decided to just say screw it. We're pretty happy with just the thick beams. I think that is a perfectly fine thing, and you can get that nice kind of eggshell kind of shape up top, and it just works, basically, is what I'm trying to say. We're going to copy that down. Basically, every vertical beam in the wall is going to have a corresponding kind of timber framed roof support. So there you go. We're going to play around a little bit for some of these windows. I'm trying to decide if I want to open some of these upper kind of dormer windows. Dormer? No, I'm tired. But we might cover that on the live stream. I'm not going to get, 100% of stuff done this episode. There's just too much to do, it seems, and, the queue line and wasting a lot of time with that and trying to get this whole area to work is basically ate up a lot of my time, it seems. We're going to get some railings along the wooden deck area, of course. Got to make this place safe, make sure no one just falls off and down onto the tracks. I don't think that would be best for anyone. We're gonna work on the timber framed kind of roofing supports that's going to be exposed along this thatch, just to make it look, 1, more detailed, 2, cover up that Z fighting that we've been having trouble with a little bit ago. And we're just using thin wood planks for this because 1, I think the bulkier frames wouldn't make sense, because if you have that much bulk on there, why didn't they just make it a wooden roof? Like, why would they bother using thatch? 2, it's just a good way to add a whole lot of little wooden elements on there without really worrying about it too much. And the little wooden elements cast a lot of shadows, which hopefully will help hide some of these other shadows going across the surface. And that's why I'm doing it. It's just wooden timber frames. You guys have seen this before. I don't even know why I'm trying to explain it anymore. It's just wooden timber framing at this point. If you want to know more about wooden timber framing, go watch the other 10 episodes that we've been doing in this section, and we build more timber frames than probably necessary. It's become almost too repetitive, to be honest. Like I'm pretty excited to be done with this area soon, because if I had to build another European structure, I may pass out of boredom, just due to I feel like I've kind of built a lot of it by now. I could keep making variations, but that would still get boring. I think I really want to change the theme soon. Here, working on the transfer track, which is a section of track that essentially is going to hold our second cart in storage if it's not being used, or if they just feel like running one cart at a time. You can also, I guess, perform maintenance on your carts and things for these coasters. But essentially the way this one is going to work is both of these sections of tracks are going to be sitting on these rails, and depending on which section you want to be used with the main line, you can just slide these left and right. And you can take one off and then put another one on it and then slide it back, and you can, you know, move your carts around, and hopefully that looks good. I think that looks good. I'm trying to think if I can possibly get a parked car on there. If I finish the station on that side, I'm kind of curious to see if I can test a coaster and just make those brakes completely stop it. And if it can completely stop it, and I delete the station and just leave the track and let it sit there in test mode and never tell it not to be in test mode, I think we could essentially get a model of an extra car sitting there. I think that would be pretty cool to see when you're pulling into the station, kind of passing this other car and holding. Has anyone tested that? I probably should have looked that up to see if anyone's done that before even thinking about the idea. No, I don't remember seeing anyone do it, but if you have, kudos to you, because it's a really cool idea, and go for it. We're gonna have some wooden little decking along one side and a little bit of a fence just to keep that a little bit more secure, of course. And this little wooden shed kind of covering area with the alternating roof heights is just something a little bit interesting. It's a little bit of a modern element, but still, because it's timber framed with a wooden roof, I think it looks Dutch enough. You know, I don't know if that's a proper word, Dutch enough. Is that a verb? But it's coming together quite nicely. So at this point, we're pretty much done with today's speed build. I did ramble on a little bit, but I hope you guys are okay with that, or else I guess you guys wouldn't be coming here for my videos. I tend to ramble in a lot of them. Anyways, we're gonna go over into real time, fly around for a little bit. You guys will give me feedback and suggestions as always, and yeah, we'll just move on from there. Okay, so here we are taking a look at our granary as the coaster makes its way through the local area. We have the queue line laid out. I do want to make a couple of structures, at least going over it, providing some shade for some people. It is a good stretch of pathing that a lot of people probably don't want to stand in the sun for the whole time that's going through. But let's go ahead and get started here. So, during the last week's live stream, we were working on this upper section. In fact, we still have a lot more of this kind of stuff to do. We want to make all the wheat field and farm-like elements to come through and cover this hillside. So that is looking really good, especially up by the windmill there. We added a waterfall, which looks pretty nice as well. Funny thing about the waterfall, I've noticed, to speed up time, it defies gravity. I don't know why or how it does that, but it's pretty impressive. And there they go again. Around and around they go. We have the track actually going underneath the bridge now. They don't clip through it at all. We made some custom supports holding up the lift hill around these areas where the track goes underneath of it. We added our coverings for the lift hill as well. This will keep that, you know, kind of cool, simple look all the way through, and might tie some of that thatch as we work our way down, which is pretty nice. And you can see the coaster in the middle. For some reason, I decided that, hey, you know, we'll just have a break in the roof line in the middle there. That can serve, I guess, two purposes, if you think about it. You can make sure that grain is still flowing down at a glance. And say you're up here and you want to make sure, you know, nothing's stuck, so you can kind of see down there. And another one is just to keep these a little bit more visually interesting. Here is our queue line. We're going to have probably a covered section here, and then maybe one more at the end, kind of covering some of this area. I do want to leave part of this open, though, just because I don't want to take away from the beautiful look of this building. So, you know, the offset tiling that we do for all of our structures so far has turned out really great, and I'm pretty happy with the way that's turned out. The upper kind of windows going up the side looks good as well. And just the overall feel, just this nice, quaint, kind of granary, kind of classical look. We have the station interior in here. So they'll load up a train. We have a lot of timber framing visible from below. I do want to add some walkway and board-like elements going through here with some areas still open, just so you don't feel too claustrophobic when you're standing here. And if I can open up some of these windows on the outside so you can kind of see in through some of these, very similar to kind of what you get with these kind of train depots, I think that would be beneficial in the long run as well. On the interior, we have the backside doors kind of closed, just to make this a little bit more of a picturesque kind of scenery element back through here where the train goes by. And the final kind of structure that we added this episode is the switch track. So this is where I guess we can store some cars here. You know, it is on a slight grade. I don't know how realistic that is, but if you add brakes to this, I don't see why not. Why that wouldn't be possible. I'm sure I'm going to catch a little bit of flack for it. However, due to size constraints and things that we're trying to work around, just with the area and the way this returns to the station, I feel like this is pretty much the only spot that I could put this. And you know, the different kind of wooden structure and the different wooden roof elements is pretty cool to look at. You get a little bit of steel coming out as well, and the steel kind of lower beams going across to what looks to be a heavy gear, and the piston from the train, because that provides a little bit of like a pulling, pushing type of mechanism that you might be able to see working. We might even add a little bit of a command console or something later this week into this area. So I think that is pretty much it. If you guys are enjoying Alpine Odyssey, feel free to leave a like down below. We're not going to ride this coaster just yet. I think we'll be riding it probably in the next episode. It should be done by then. There's not many structures left to do. There's only really a lot of placing a handful of trees and rocks and just cleaning up the track a bit. So if you guys want to, you know, come see that, do look forward to it. In the meantime, thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like, leave a comment down below, and I will see you in the next video.